Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. I'll be sharing today about QA in the AI age. AI-powered teams deliver 2 times faster. Before we get started, let me introduce myself. My name is Diego and I'm a QA manager. I have over a decade of experience working in software testing, and now I will be happy to introduce you about how AI is impacting QA practice. So before we deep dive into AI, we need to set the stage about how QA meets AI. First of all, let's define quality engineering today. I know that QA could mean different things, but when we say QA engineering or quality engineering, we talk about both manual and automated validations to ensure product quality. Also, when we talk about quality, we know that there are non-functional and functional attributes as well. That means that quality is not just about validating a website or a mobile application. It's about ensuring that the entire process fits well into the software development process overall, and we deliver a good quality products as well. Also, we need to know that quality relies a lot on processes, discipline, and human expertise. Even though we do have standards and we have a lot of things that we can learn about quality, there are some things that you can only learn by practicing them and learning of your mistakes as well. So the AI opportunity here is that AI automates repetitive work, which is very often in the quality assurance world, and augments human testers with predictive insights and autonomous exploration as well. We'll see about that during the demo later. Also, we need to focus on something very tricky about AI, and it's about AI requires strategic integrations to avoid automation chaos. That means that if we use AI without knowing how to use it, that means that the outcome of the responses from the AI will not be as accurate as we expect to be. That's why we are here. We're about to learn about how AI impacts QA in a meaningful way. So again, before we get started, let's define what the QA process looks like. And as a disclaimer, I don't mean to oversimplify what quality assurance is or how the testing process should look like, but I'm pretty sure you will agree with me that these 3 main major activities cover a good, decent testing process. First of all, requirement and story analysis. We know that that means review business requirements and acceptance criteria, define preliminary risk-based testing approach, identify critical flows and high-risk areas using product analytics or historical defect data. In long story short, that means that we have a requirement as an input, and we are to analyze that requirement and provide feedback, find contradictions, ambiguities, gaps between requirements, so we can provide feedback before even the development gets started. That's where QA starts. Then the second major activity is test setup and design. This is basically the daily bread for all the QAs. That means that we basically set up the test environment, we prepare the test data, we configure the test tools that we use based on the context of the project. If it's a mobile application that we're developing, we need to set up all the simulators, or physical devices that we need to perform testing. Or if it's a website, we need to make sure that we're testing against the correct browsers and so on. Also, manual test case writing. This is a very painful but critical activity in QA world when it comes to test setup and design. That means that we have a requirement as an input as we saw in the first major activity. In this second one, we are to develop or design test cases using different techniques based on those requirements to make sure that we're testing use cases that matches what is required in the user story or requirement. Therefore, we map these tests with the requirements, and also we define automation priorities if this project is a candidate for automation. And the third major activity when it comes to QA process is about execution and reporting. That means that everything we did before, like we analyzed the requirement, we then designed the test cases using techniques, prepared all the test data and so on. We now have to execute the test cases and make sure that the requirements are complied. That means that we perform manual execution for functional regression or UAT, and we log defects if something is not accurate or if test case fails, that means that we're testing something that we expect to be correct, but it's not. So we log a defect, and that becomes part of our reports as well. Also, we use different dashboards as Jira, Zephyr for live tracking. And if applicable, if we have automation, then we perform the automated execution, and we perform activities like analyzing the results, making sure that there are no flaky tests or defects there, and so on and so on. That means that there is a huge set of activities that a QA performs on a daily basis during a project lifecycle. So let's see how, I forgot to mention this, that there are a lot of limitations, and I don't mean to say that these three are the only limitations we face in the day-to-day activities from a QA perspective, but it's more about challenges that we know that are common across different projects. For example, speed versus coverage. Sometimes we struggle on deciding if we should prioritize speed over testing depth, meaning that we usually rely on risk-based testing, or we perform the more critical test first, and then if we have enough time, we execute the P2s, P3s, and so on. That means that we need to sacrifice something there if we want to deliver something like faster. If not, or if we're planning to delay the cadence of the releases, then we can focus on finding more defects, exploring other ideas like usability testing, accessibility testing, and so on and so on. Basically, there is a trade-off between speed and testing exploration or testing depth. Also that means that the sprint close before full regression coverage. That usually happens in teams that do not rely on automation. Another limitation is knowledge silos. That means that we have different QAs, like test oracles, that they know different parts of the product. But that also means that if we require a QA to test a feature A that only a tester A knows, that's a problem to us because the knowledge is just encompassed in that tester per se. That means that there is no source of truth that we can rely on. We have the user stories, but sometimes they get outdated as well. And if the product team does not make those requirements up to date, then we have a problem there as well. That means that we have a loss of contextual knowledge across releases. And also we do have maintenance overhead. That means that if we are applying an automated solution, we have to make a lot of efforts or high efforts to update automation scripts with UI changes. Outdated test cases not aligned with product evolution, as we said before. So these are challenges and are very common across projects. And as a disclaimer, again, that doesn't mean that AI will solve all of our problems. AI is not a silver bullet, but it's here to help out. So let's see how high-impact AI technologies for modern QA practices work. First of all, again, and you'll notice that I'll perform a lot of, or mention a lot of disclaimers here, and that's just because I don't want to mislead you in what QA means or how AI can impact QA. This is based on the experience we have and the recommendations that we can gather for you. So let's get started with the first one, and it's intelligent test design. We talk about designing test cases. What does that mean? We already saw that test cases are based on input requirements. So you need to analyze requirements, and if you have 5 requirements in one cycle of the software development, that means that you need to analyze 5 requirements and then design test cases. There is a way on how we can rely on AI for that right now. And it's performing basically intelligent test design using different prompts and so on. We'll see about that later during a demo. That means that with plain natural language, you can generate test cases from user stories. Also supports custom rules. There are a couple of tools that supports like context and that you can provide rules, naming conventions, and so on. That means that you can create test cases relying on AI, given a different set of rules that you will design as well. So the expected outcome of this AI response about designing test cases will be very aligned to the rules you defined before. The second part is, or one of the second like high impact ideas that we have from AI to QA is autonomous exploration and documentation. You'll notice that this is very innovate. It's very cool. And I think there will be definitely cool use cases to use this in our benefit from a QA perspective. By autonomous exploration, I mean, and let me stop right here for a second. When we perform exploratory tests, we know that we cannot rely on automated tools because exploratory test is about exploring, understanding the product, and it's not about automating a task. It's about just understanding, gathering insights and data for us to know better the application we're about to test later. So with AI, we now can rely on the different models and technologies to perform that exploration testing for us and provide valuable insights about a product, services, how a click maps, how the product works itself. Basically, we can save time and avoid exploring a product ourselves and rather delegate that task to the AI and then come back and just review the outcome of that, which are insights about everything I mentioned before. The third high impact AI technology that I want to share with you is about agentic AI script generation. This applies also for the development team. But right now I want to focus on automated test cases. That means that we can, the AI can autonomously understand the project that you're working on and collaborate with you on that. And it can generate end-to-end scenarios automatically based on discovered path, and improves readability, reduces redundancy, and applied right principles, which are do not repeat yourself. With this, and we have a different conference for that one, and so I invite you to join on that one as well. But this is a very helpful AI impact tool that we can benefit from a QA perspective if your project is applicable for automation. So how do we integrate AI into QA? We have already discussed about the testing process, high impact AI technologies, but how we can actually put them in practice, how we can benefit from them in a day-to-day. First of all, we need to think in 3 words: measured, managed, and meaningful. If we're just integrating AI into daily activities without considering these 3 aspects, the outcome or the result of using AI won't be that satisfactory. So we need to consider that first. And to explore these 3 main words, we'll separate into different sections. The first one will be the foundations before AI, and the second one will be strategic AI use cases. And after that, I'll perform a small demo for you. So foundations before AI, what does this actually mean? That means that before thinking of using AI in your project, you must be very sure that you have solid processes, that you are confident about the outcomes you have in your testing process, that you are setting up the correct rules, you have a test strategy or test plan in your project that is actually producing good results, but you want to speed up that. You want to optimize that or even scale that solution that it's actually getting good results for you. So first of all, you need to consider having well-written requirements and acceptance criteria. That means that without a good description of a user story, everything else will be messy. Even if you use automation, even if you use AI, so you definitely need to review if your requirements have a definition of ready and are well written. That means that the description is accurate, that you're providing enough context, that the acceptance criteria is clear, that you have wireframes if applicable, or database structure, or API schemas are shared, and so on. Everything that can benefit the context of your user story is what you need to review. That's well-written requirements mean. An example could be you have a user story that is describing business rules. You can actually put some examples or real-life examples you expect from that feature and some test data even. That will be super helpful for your developer and your QA to understand. Standards executable examples like Gherkin and JSON, each acceptance criteria should be linked to at least one test case. So again, just to wrap up this first point is we need to have well-written requirements with enough context there. Second point that I want to talk about when we speak about the foundations before AI ecosystem is about consistent QA process and documentation standards. I was talking about that when I was explaining about well-written requirements, but I mean, you need to have your test strategy, your test plan in place. You need to actually be sure that it's generating value and that you're confident with the results you're getting from your strategy. But that also means that you need to have a set of well-defined test levels that you're planning to test. Also, the definition of ready and definition of done of a ticket is useful there. Bug taxonomy, so you can actually make some categories after you find bugs, like by severity, priority, by environment. Also, repository of truth. I was talking about that earlier. Having a repository of truth, that means that you know that if you go to a Confluence page or to a Notion page, you will find out whatever you need to know about your product and the use cases you designed based on those. That way you will also be able to perform like traceability between test case, user story, and feature. And the third aspect before we deep dive into AI and how to implement them into day-to-day activities, you need to make sure that baseline metrics captured before any AI pilot. Why? Because you need to know how AI is impacting your process. If you don't know how much test cases do you have, how many bugs are you finding in production, defect leakage, whatever metrics or KPIs about QA, then you won't be able to see how AI is impacting your process, meaning that you don't know if it will be meaningful or not. So you need to take care of that first before even thinking about AI, measuring your current metrics in your project as well. So yeah, some strategic AI use cases. And this is the happy hour for everyone. It's understanding how AI actually impacts on the day-to-day of a quality process. So first of all, we need to accelerate repetitive test design tasks. These tend to be a little bit tricky for the QAs. They spend some time analyzing requirements, designing test cases. So having a way of accelerating that without losing test coverage or without losing confidence on what's the outcome of the test design designed by the AI, we need to focus on inputs like user stories, rules, personas, API schemas, mocks. That means that with this new approach, we need to make sure that we're providing enough context to the AI. That being said, let's see an example. You have a user story requirement that has a description and acceptance criteria. If you can provide more data like wire mocks, again, API schemas, database structures, even examples, whatever, it's good enough to provide enough context to the AI so the AI can understand or deeply understand the impact of this user story. It can understand the user story and then it can perform the task of designing the test cases for you based on the rules that the QA will provide as well, like naming convention, expected format, everything you can share on the AI so it can provide enough results for you that you can feel that they are actually meaningful to you. The success will be like reducing the draft from 50 to 70%, like drafting time. Drafting means you know that you're designing something, but you have questions about the user story. And then you go back to the product owner or whoever designed this, and then you lose a bit of time. If you provide enough context, that won't happen. And reviewer edits like in 25%. There are more elegant and sophisticated approaches here. Like you can have two agents, one agent designing the test case and another agent using AI reviewing that test case. But that's a conversation for another time. So the second point that we want to discuss about strategic AI use cases is autonomously explore and map new features. You'll see a good demo about this and you will like have a visual reference of what I'm saying in a minute. The inputs here are that if you can provide like a description of the product that you are exploring or what is your intention on why you're exploring a website. For example, you're a QA joining a new project. There is an existing productive product and you are to learn about how the product works. You have documentation somewhere in Confluence or Notion or whatever, but you also have the product per se. So how you can benefit from AI in this example, you can delegate an agent to explore the website for you and ask the agent to gather insights, to check what features does this website has, which type of data, industry, everything that you want. You can get that from the agent if you ask for it. And the outcome or the result will be that this agent will perform all those actions for you, performing an exploratory test, and you will get information about what you asked, like click map paths or features about this product or test data that is being used, and so on and so on. And that will reduce the time, and you can actually spend the time you were planning to spend on perform manual exploratory testing and do something different, like exploring the API schema yourself or the database structure, or you can even have different agents to perform that for you as well. And the third strategic AI use case that I want to share with you today is about integrate test automation with minimal effort. Super small disclaimer here. I don't mean to oversimplify how test automation works, but this doesn't mean, maybe the title is a bit misleading, but I did that on purpose, just because I wanted you to know that designing a test framework could be difficult, but using AI, that can be less difficult. And by minimal effort, I mean basically using vibe coding. With a prompt, you can ask the agent to perform an action like create a new project from scratch following the rules described in this file. And it will perform all those actions for you, and it will create a project from scratch. So what you did before, a few years ago, manually, it can be done in a few minutes by your agent if you are doing the correct prompt, if you're sharing the correct prompt with the agent. So the inputs here are the test cases, the system under test, obviously, maybe the source code of the development team as well, and the output will be the test automation framework itself. Again, huge disclaimer here now. A test automation framework is not just composed by UI stuff. I know that you need to rely on the test data management, the databases, the APIs, everything. But this can be a great asset for you, and you can benefit from that. And it can reduce development time that you actually perform right now. And you will definitely notice the difference before and after using this type of tools. So again, disclaimer before we go to the demo. Although many AI tools offer free versions or trial periods, these tend to come with limitations in terms of features, speed, or usage caps. That means that you can get free tiers from some tools, but that means that you will be limited. That means that if you want to perform a large task, you won't be able to do that because you will need the paid version to perform that. Also, there are offline LLMs that you can benefit from, but you need to consider pros and cons here. What I want to say with this bullet point is that AI is not a silver bullet. You have pros and cons, and you have to choose the correct ecosystem that works for you or that is a better fit for your project. There are no out-of-the-box solutions right now in the market. That means that you cannot just Google or prompt, give me the 5 top test automation tools for free that will do everything for me. That does not exist. You will have to put together something like agents, LLM, and understand a bit about the context of AI. It's basically the first task, or my first suggestion for you if you know nothing about AI would be perform an AI 101. Basically understand the foundations and basics about AI. Third disclaimer will be current tools enhance test case creation, automation, and analysis, but still needs human guidance. That means that if you delegate to an agent to perform a task like a test case design, as we were speaking before, that's fine. It will reduce time for you, but you will have the responsibility to check the outcome of that agent. That means that you will have to, basically that's the human part there. You still need to spend some time, but the happy part is that you are not going to design everything. That will be done by the AI, and you'll be the reviewer. The fourth bullet point is agentic test automation and LLM-assisted QA require custom integration and tuning for each project. One of the 7 testing principles is testing is context dependent. That means that if you're putting together a solution, you need to make sure that it fits your project context. And the final disclaimer is teams should adopt an experimental and iterative approach when integrating AI for testing. This is a very cool suggestion, which is basically if you're planning to integrate AI, make it slower, make a POC, try to gather data about if it's being meaningful or not, if you're getting the actual outcome you expect or not, and then try to tune that into the way you actually want. Basically, that means like iterative approach when integrating AI for testing. That being said, enough of my chit chat, and let's go directly with the demos. Okay, so let's go with the first demo then. I'll be sharing with you about AI-driven test case generation. We have been talking about this for a while now, but I want you to actually check the outcome of using AI for your benefit when generating test cases. So in this demo, the scenario will be basically, we'll perform two different prompts. The first one will be just a plain prompt asking an AI or a chatbot to generate test cases for us, given a user story. And the second example, or the second prompt, will be sharing the same user story, but with more context. So you can get an idea of what you can achieve if you provide enough context and rules to your chatbot or AI. So the input will be, as I said before, a user story with acceptance criteria and wiremocks and a set of rules that I'll be sharing later. So yeah, let's get started then. And for that, let me open the user story first so you can get an idea. So in this user story, yeah, it's very simple. The feature is user registration. Description, I won't read it. It's very obvious here. But the acceptance criteria is registration form accessible from main page. All required fields must be filled before submission. A classic registration form user story. That's everything we need. So let's open, in this case, I'm using Claude. And I will start a new chat. The model I'm using is Claude Sonnet 4. You can use whatever you need for your benefit. And let's just paste this user story like live. Like generate test cases for me using this user story. While we wait, I know that you're thinking, I'm sharing product information of my company with AI. So first of all, you need to check your privacy policy with your IT department to make sure you're not breaking any laws from your company or whatever. But second of all, a little research will be good for you to know that some tools or chatbots like Anthropic, for example, does not learn from your prompt unless you define it explicitly. So let's see what's happening here right now. Yeah, you know what the prompt is. I just pasted the user story, and this is generating a bunch of test cases for me. I will scroll up right now. I have here positive test cases, successful registration, blah, 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 precondition. Great, and it even generated security test cases for me, even though I didn't ask for them. But this is not usable on a daily basis. We need to either store these test cases somewhere, like in a test case management tool like Jira or TestRail. Also, we don't need security test cases. We're just performing functional tests. So this was the first example. Very simple, but it's not usable, or at least not on a daily basis. So let's do another example. Let's benefit from the features that Claude provides to you. So let's create here a new project. And let's call it test case generator. Notice that you will find in the right of the screen instructions and files. That means that you can upload some context to the chatbot so it can understand better what you want to get from it. So Besides the user story, we do have a wireframe. As you can see here, it's basically a mock-up on how the screen should look like. It has like first name, last name, email, blah, 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 register button, and so on. And we also have some rules. Let me open this. These rules are specifically set for the AI to understand and have a better context of what I want. Just see this first. You are a QA expert with ISTQB certification that is in charge of designing functional test cases based on requirements following below conditions. I won't go through it, but you get an idea on what rule means. In this case, we provide purpose and scope, expected output. I'm saying here, produce a single CSV file that is ready to import into TestRail or Jira. Sources of truth like inputs and so on. These test design principles, I'm designing here, or I'm setting the rules that I want the AI to use to design the test cases, make them traceable, atomic and deterministic, independent, risk-based. And I'm also sharing the format standard that I want the AI to use for my test cases. Naming and writing conventions, coverage rules, data rules, reviewer checklist, and some examples on how the test cases should look like. So the AI does not hallucinate and provide us with what we actually want based on the rules we're providing. So in this second example, we created a project and we are going to upload this context, the wireframe, the user story, and the test case generation rules. And now I will be prompting basically the same. Generate test cases for the user story following the rules. And you will see that the difference between my first prompt and this second one is purely the context I shared with this chatbot. It immediately understood that I wanted a CSV file to be imported later to a test case management tool instead of a set of human readable test cases. Also, I'm putting like the rule that I need functional tests, not security, not usability, just functional test cases. And it's performing that for me. We will validate that later. But you can see here that it's following the exact same format that I'm actually requesting in my test case generation rules. What's the message here? Basically, the more context you provide to the chatbot, the more accurate your outcome will be, or the responses of the AI will be. In this case, I shared a user story, a wire mock, and the test case generation rules, and I got actually what I wanted, a CSV file with some test cases designed by the AI that I need to review later. These are not for me to blindly go ahead and execute them or import them to TestRail or Jira, but rather for me to review if it's actually covering all the acceptance criteria and so on and so on. So this was like the first example that I wanted to share with you. It was very simple, but again, the message here is get the most out of the chatbots and testing tools by exploring them, and also always provide enough context to the chatbot or agent or AI that you're using to get better results from it. We can scale this. Again, we can create different agents. I can create another prompt with a different model to say, okay, from these test cases and this user story, review them and make some observations. Basically, like make it iterative until I feel comfortable with the actual outcome of the AI. So yeah, let's go to the second demo there then, which is a bit more visual. And we will talk about autonomous exploratory testing. This is something very new in the QA world. Again, we knew that in the past, we were performing exploratory tests manually, or we were not even making exploratory tests at all. But right now, we have the possibility of delegate that activity to an AI or agent to perform an exploratory test for us and provide us with enough insights about the project or product or website that this agent is actually exploring. So we will have two scenarios here. The first one is exploratory tests that autonomously generate test cases. In another one, a bit greater, that will be how to scale that to make the agent to help us out with functional test activities, like executing a defect or executing a couple of test cases in an automated way without using code and just by using prompts. That's like the highlight of this demo. So yeah, let's go with the first example first. In this first example, it's basically what I said before, that we will perform an exploratory test. The composition of this example is basically, as you can see, there is no code involved here. I only rely, in this case, I'm running away from Claude Desktop and I'm using Visual Studio Code and GitHub Copilot. I can do the same thing using Claude Desktop, but I'm just doing this on purpose so you can understand that it's not about the tool. It's about understanding the AI ecosystem and how to make the most out of it. Basically, the prompt I'm using here is perform an exploratory test on this website, and I'm sharing Applaudos website. If you haven't visited, please do. You will find out about our history, about our open positions, the products we offer, the services we offer. Give me a description about this website and its products and services related, and create a set of high-level bulleted test cases. I'm going to prompt this. I just want to make sure that my MCP server is running because I'm using Playwright MCP. And with this prompt, you'll check the beauty of this new world. If you notice, a browser got displayed. And with my prompt, this agent will perform an exploratory test for me. And it will basically scrape this website and will provide all the information I need. Right now, it's clicking different parts of the website. It's basically trying to understand some things. It doesn't matter if some clicks fail. It's just exploring the website. That's like the main purpose of my prompt. And if you notice on the right side of my screen, it's basically giving me feedback about the actions the agent is performing. Like, great, the website was loaded, let me explore. Now let me check one of their case studies to better understand their work quality and approach, and so on and so on. Right now, the agent just finished. Since I didn't provide enough context about this company, it's very cool, it may have a lot of things to explore or go here and there. It just did whatever it wanted to do. So let's see the outcome. See, website description, Applaudo.com. Applaudo is a prominent nearshore digital transformation company that specializes in AI-powered enterprise solutions. Here's a comprehensive overview. And you can see here where Applaudo was funded, current status, location, company evolutions, mission, all the primary services that we provide, and some other stuff. I didn't visit the website myself. I delegated the task to the agent. It did that for me. It scraped all the information I needed, and now I just can read without actually doing the exploratory test myself. You can benefit from that on a day-to-day, as I was saying earlier. If you are to join a new project and it's a productive website, you can delegate the exploratory test activity to an agent so you can get a better idea of how the product works without actually spending a lot of time going yourself, clicking around, and so on and so on. And also, it generated high-level exploratory test cases for me, which is what I actually asked for. That was like the first part. I know that you will see the potential that this has in the QA world by switching from that example to this second one. The second one, just to recap, and let me close this browser myself. The second is how to perform a functional smoke test following rules to perform actions. So let me open a different project. Let me close these test case rules, and let me explain the composition of this project. Again, no code. I'll just open everything so you can see that it's just a set of empty directories or folders. And I have here the same composition, Visual Studio Code, GitHub Copilot, and Playwright MCP. Let me update the model here, and let me explain the composition of the project. I have here a file, which is basically the environment variables file. Why? Because I don't want to expose this into the chatbot itself. And in the rules, you'll notice that I explicitly say to the agent, please reference any environment files into this env.dev file. But let's check the rules. Basically, the rules are, and it's a very comprehensive rule set here that I designed. And basically, it's a checklist that I want the agent to perform for me. Environment folders basically perform a checklist, check that the environment.env exists and contains app URL, username and password if applicable, CSV, discover and selection. If you exported test cases from TestRail or Jira or whatever your test case management tool is, in CSV file, you can just paste that here and it will discover that for you. Execute with accuracy first loop, open Chromium, login with environment variables. I'm basically describing specifically the actions I want the agent to perform. That will avoid it will basically be more specific outcome for me. Then I'm asking for a reporting in logs and a closeout. I want the agent to close the browser for me. I don't want to do that. And some other mandatory safeguards and so on. It's a very comprehensive rule set in which I explain some things that the agent needs to do for me. For example, the test execution plan summary and so on. And then I have here one single test case. I can add 2, 3, 4, 10, whatever I want. However, a small disclaimer here, this is not automated testing. This is a way of delegating a task to an agent to perform like functional tests, discover stuff, provide insights, and so on. So here I have a test case that will perform a successful registration in a website, and it will perform all the actions described here. Like navigate to the main page, click register, enter valid name, email, password, confirm password and date of birth, click submit, and then I should, like, user is redirected to login page and with a success message. And then, I have the rules, the user registration CSV, and that's everything I need. I also have a README file that describes how this project should be used. So let's go to the part of I have a hard-coded prompt here to use. Basically is how to run tests using this project. Again, no code. It's just the power of the agent and the combination between the model and the Playwright MCP. So here I have a prompt that I can use. Let me check that the MCP is running. It is. And basically the prompt is use all rules described and perform a smoke test on functional test on the given directory. And let me click enter here and just wait for the magic to happen. It already replied back. I'll perform a comprehensive smoke test on the functional test. And now it's reading the CSV file. It's understanding the test cases that I'm sharing because that's described in the rules. It is creating some directories for me, like the results directory and today's date directory as well. It's also sharing the test execution plan summary that I described in the rules to print. And now it will perform the test. It's not super fast because it's not intended to be super fast. It's intended to understand what's doing and learn from the web page that this is. It's performing the confirmation action, the password. It's clicking on register, and let's just wait for it to happen. All form and fields completed successfully as I requested, and the account was created successfully. That means that I can divide the set of smoke test cases that I own. If I have 15 test cases, I can delegate 7 to the AI and I can do 7 myself, or I can delegate the 15 test cases to the AI depending on what you want to achieve. Now it's moving all the screenshots because it's taking screenshots for me and it's preparing a report. You'll get here all the comprehensive results like navigation, submission, expected result versus actual result, and it's generating a report for me. It will take a while because in the rules I'm describing that it should be based on a template that I am sharing myself. It's an HTML report that it will be good for other type of stakeholders like product owners, scrum masters, or anyone else. So in the meantime, this is working. Let's do a recap of the demos we have made today. First one is how to generate test cases using chatbots like ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever you use, Copilot. And the important part is make sure that you're sharing enough context or dependencies to the chatbot before you actually asking or prompting something. That way you will get an outcome that it's useful for you. You will have to review the test cases and then you can import them to your test case management tool. And the second demo has been how to autonomously delegate tasks to an agent that can be performed on a website, either for exploratory test purposes, scrape a website, or even perform functional tests just by following some rules. And yeah, right now it's generating the HTML report. Let me try to open that one as well, so you can have an idea. And here it is. Obviously, it's not super beauty, but it's what actually we need to share the execution results to different stakeholders, like test cases results. You'll see here is super cool. You can actually see the screenshot taken by the agent. You can get back to the report, get all the information about the execution environment and configuration, dev, browser that was used, execution date, and all the metrics that were complied, and so on and so on. So basically, you have now the ability to autonomously delegate tasks to an agent using this composition. Again, it's not about the tool, it's about how you use it and what do you want from it. The more context you provide, the accurate the response will be. Obviously, you will have to review this. You'll have to do this in a meaningful, managed way so you can get accurate results. Anyways, this has multiple implications. You can use this for several purposes. Like, for example, you can use the same tool set to start generating automated scripts from UI. So the limit is basically your imagination. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you about the tools that we know that we think you will benefit from if you start using them. Just to wrap up, the demos that we explained today are not like the only thing that AI is currently doing or how AI is currently impacting QA. There are several things that we can do with AI. Like I was explaining before, you can put together 2 agents, one producer, one reviewer, and you can create test cases and make both agents to discuss about the results and make sure that both are getting feedback so you can get a clean set of test cases produced and reviewed by 2 different agents with different models. Also, there are some other things, like, for example, some different exploratory tracks, like, for example, creating test automation frameworks with AI agents, as we were mentioning before, or even natural language defect reporting and triage. I know that that could be confusing wording, but what I mean here in simple words is if you have defects in Jira, for example, you may want to use Atlassian MCP to start like analyzing and making meaningful insights about the defects you own or you have, to start like avoiding them in the future, like a preventive approach, and some other stuff you can achieve using AI tools. Also, we need to make sure that we are clear in the understanding of AI in testing from testing AI. AI in testing is what we did. We're using AI to speed up or enhance our testing activities. But testing AI is a complete different world. and it's a topic for a different conversation as well. Also, some food for thought, an expanded vision about the future of QA. There is also a new trend right now, which is shift left AI, which basically makes your testing go in a deeper technical way. I mean, integrate test cases suggestions into development IDEs. So you have the source code, and with the help of AI, you can start like designing test cases based on that source code right now. I know that that can be tricky because we cannot be biased about what's currently developed, but that's a huge asset if we're joining a project that's already productive. That could be a good starting point for us. Real-time test maintenance. Right now, in the automation world, there is a new trend. Well, it's not that new, but with AI, it's been a boom right now, which is self-healing test cases. It's been a very painful process to like fix test cases, spend some time refactoring test cases, automated test cases, I mean, or even spending time in flaky test analysis and so on. With self-healing test cases, which is a new, cool thing from AI right now, you can like bulletproof your scripts and make sure they have like fallbacks, trusting that the AI will perform like a different action for you and will bypass that, and your test will like continue the flow that was intended. And also configurable agent pipelines. Again, as I was saying before, producer and reviewer. What about QA in the future? So first of all, we will basically have a transition from executors to strategists. That means that right now we get user requirements, we analyze them, we perform tasks. We are analyzing a requirement, yeah, but we are executing everything else. And with AI, we will become more strategic. Like we will have a set of AI prompts or validating the coverage that the AI performed for us. Like the agent is performing tasks for us and we need to validate the outcome of that tasks, or defining quality KPIs. Also, we will be owners of the AI assets like prompt libraries, test data models, and automation pipelines. Also, QA, AI output reviewers. That will be our first like task. We will be using AI, and therefore we will have to review the outcome of the AI. Agent wrangler and QA coach. Shift left in the IDE, as I was explaining later. Testing AI systems. Again, I said that later. It's not. There are two different things: AI in testing and testing AIs. Testing AIs is more focused on, I have a model here and I want to make sure it works. And even though that's not deterministic, there are ways, or there are current ways of how perform software testing on these models or AIs. Real-time maintenance, we already discussed about that on the self-healing locators, and risk-based regression selection. Again, right now, we don't have a way of determining if there was a change in the code and we're executing automated tests in a pipeline. We usually execute everything. But with this new AI, we can have an insight of what classes or files were like modified in the source code and execute only the test cases that can actually capture something from that changes. And yeah, basically, I just want to thank you for joining me today. Thanks for the time you spent watching this conference. And please don't hesitate to visit our website to search more about Uploado, and follow us in all the social media that we own. And it's been a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you.